This is the time of the year that beekeepers are really struggling to know when to shift over from liquid syrup to hard candy. Hey everybody, David Burns, let's get right into it. So maybe you're feeding your bees some sugar water like I am. And the reason I feed my bees sugar water in the fall is to build up diutinous bees, long-lived bees to make it through to next spring. And this is not a new thing. It's been in the literature for a long time of people that are beekeepers trying to feed their bees different protein, different mixtures to get them to build up bees of winter physiology or diutinous bees. And I've been doing this for a couple of decades and it's really worked out really nicely for me. And I don't know if it'll work perfectly for you in your situation, but here where I live in Illinois, it is a lifesaver because I need a lot of bees to make a lot of heat. So for me coming out of winter, I may be making up nukes and I might be raising queens. So I need a lot of bees all at once coming out of winter. And so here's the deal, listen up. Some people ask this question after winter. They say to each other as beekeepers, hey, did your bees survive winter? Hey, what was your percentage? How many bees survived? I'm concerned about our use of the word survive. Okay, so let me explain why. I don't think I'm nitpicking because if, let's say you have 4 hives and let's say keeping with the average backyard beekeeper, 2 of those will die. That means that 2 survive. But what we don't often ask is the 2 that survived, how robust and healthy were they coming out of winter? Because a lot of times, even though a bee colony may survive the winter, when it comes through winter, it's pretty much decimated. It's small in number. Instead of being 40, 50,000 coming out of winter, it's down to 10,000, sometimes 5,000 bees barely percolating along. And what makes that so difficult is it's hard to get the ball rolling again to catch that spring honey flow, even the summer honey flow, because the bees have to make up such lost ground. So it's not about what survives, barely makes it through by the skin of their teeth, but it's about how robust they are. So the reason I like to feed my syrup to my bees is to raise a lot of bees of winter physiology to go through winter as a large population. Now, I've been doing this for a decade and a half or longer, and what I found was that it wasn't enough just to feed my bees sugar water 1-to-1 in the fall to raise more bees, to support more brood in the fall, but I needed to supplement the feed in the wintertime as well. Because I've found that bees really don't enjoy eating all of their food and have nothing left over, so sometimes they're very reluctant to raise brood in the wintertime. They just usually raise a little bit of brood just to barely make it. Okay, so here's the deal. So I came up with the winter beekeeping board that so many of you enjoy putting on your hives. So that's what I mean by when do you shift from the syrup over to the candy board? And a lot of people kind of struggle with this because a lot of people want to put my winter beekeeping candy boards on too early. And I usually wait until the end of December or the first part of January. I kind of put them on about when winter starts. And so meanwhile, I will feed my bees, like this week, it's going to be into the mid 50s every day for a high temperature. So I continue to feed my bees 1-to-1, supporting them raising more brood, more bees of winter physiology. And so I'm going to shift over to my winter beekeeping candy boards probably toward the middle to the end of December or even the first week or 2 in January because of this reason. My winter beekeeping boards, I've always viewed them as an insurance policy. That extra candy on top is not to, keep the bees from dying, although that's what happens if the bees don't have food on board. But it's really to be an insurance policy, an insurance plan, because your bees, my bees, should have had enough stored inside their hive to make it through winter. But the thing is, fluctuating temperatures like this week in 50 degrees, for example, my bees are going to be active. They break cluster at about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so they're walking around, moving around, and if it was sunny, they'd be flying around. That's burning energy. That's consuming more of their stored winter resources. I can't afford to spend the next month getting all the way until the first day of winter with my bees being active and eating through their honey, eating it all up before winter. And so for insurance, that's when I started giving them a candy board. And that has helped me so much. Now let's get into the brass tacks of how do you know when to make this transition? Now, I have found that I'm able to feed my bees longer than I thought that I could in the fall. I used to not, bother to feed them once the temperatures cooled off a lot, and I would just have a gap between the transition from the liquid over to the candy board. That gap usually consisted of about maybe a month or two where I would not feed my bees. Why not? Because my bees have plenty of food on board. I'm going into winter with 70 to 80 pounds of their own bee bread, pollen, and nectar in their hive. And so they're relying on that. That's what they did. I don't take off a ton of honey. I don't rob every last drop from my bees. And so they have a lot on board. I usually go through the winter with 2 deeps, and that's a brood area, which will have some honey and bee bread and pollen there. But I also keep 1 full medium honey super on board all winter long for them. And that adds to their food supply that they need to make it through winter. But even then, as you can see in this video here, my bees consumed everything. And in fact, look at this super that was on top that was fully capped over with honey going into winter. Now you can see in this video, you can tell the apple tree hasn't bloomed yet. It's pretty early in spring. And yet, look at all the brood that is in this medium super. Now that may cause some of you to panic. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do? You got brood in your honey super. Not for me. All I do is I lay a queen excluder between my honey super and the brood box area. That brood emerges. I make sure the queen's below it. And once all the brood comes out, the workforce just becomes part of the hive. And since the queen excluder is going to keep my queen down below, then they're just going to turn that back into a honey super. So that works really well for me. But my point is, look at how much food they consumed. And that's after I fed them almost 10 to 15 pounds of that candy per week. I know I don't have to feed them that much, but you can see in this video, I need a lot of bees coming out of winter. And some people might say, oh my gosh, feeding bees like that in the wintertime, that's crazy. Well, is it? I mean, bees prefer to be active. I don't think they enjoy clustering at all. I think that's a survival technique to make it through winter. And I want a lot of bees coming out of winter. I would rather come out of winter. Here's my argument for feeding in the winter and having a lot of bees coming out of winter. It's more fun for me to come out of winter with a lot of bees and deal with that than to come out with dead bees and empty boxes. I mean, if you want to argue that, and if you like coming out of winter with dead bees, then don't feed your bees. I like coming out of winter with alive bees and a lot of bees. Now, does that mean I may have a few more mites? Maybe. I mean, I can treat oxalic acid in the wintertime. Does it mean that I'm going to maybe have early swarms? Maybe. But all of that is still better than having dead bees, okay? So this is my technique of making it through the winter that works out really good. So I like to feed my bees as long as I can, all the way up to the point where it's now too cold, the bees are too far down as a cluster to take any more liquid food. And so when I see temperatures dropping, or in the daytime temperature, high temperatures never getting above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, then I know they're not going up there. It's rare for them to eat the candy, the liquid sugar. Now they might, and I have documented it this year. They have been eating it. My hives are really big. There's a lot of bees in there, and they are consuming it at lower temperatures. So that's what's new to me this year. So I'm feeding them a little bit longer as long as they'll take it. But the key to me is, I spend a lot of time thinking about the gut of the bee and how much they consume and their need to defecate. And so in order to prevent things like microsporidium or nosema, in the gut lining and all. I prefer that my bees do have the occasional time to go flying if I am feeding them liquid. And so that to me means about once a week, once every 2 weeks at the least, that they will have a good opportunity to have a cleansing flight if I'm feeding them liquid. So that enters into the picture. I want their gut to be able to be kept clean and they can defecate. So think about that. Now, in the wintertime, the winter bee kind board goes on again, late December, early January. It does have a opening in the top. Bees will use that to defecate, which I thoroughly love that they do that. Again, keeping that gut health that those bees need. And so I'm going to shift from syrup over to candy when I see that it's cold enough now. There's not going to be a chance of robbing. It's not going to be really hot days anymore that might prematurely start dissolving the candy board ahead of what normally happens when it's put on in the wintertime. All of us need to make sure all season that we keep our bees very healthy, low mite counts, low viral counts in our hive, because we can't feed our bees back to good health if they're full of viruses. No matter how much you feed them, no matter who's feeding, fondant, whatever you put on there, if they are full of viruses, they're not going to make it through winter. That's the number one killer of bees, is the viral destructor mite spreading viruses. So we have to start out with a good queen, and we have to start out with low mite count, and then we can jump to the nutrition of bees, start feeding them. And it's a lot of fun. I'm going to be talking more about nutrition in Texas. I'm leaving in just a little while, actually, tomorrow morning. And I'm going to be going to Waco, Texas. This is a walk-in registration. I mean, you can't order online because we're so close to the conference. But if you're listening to this and you live close to Waco, you can show up on Saturday, Friday and Saturday, and be a part of the conference coming up. So I'll leave a little link right here. You can follow over there and check it out. But I'm looking forward to speaking on the subject. I'm going to be talking about queen rearing, making better bees, making better beekeepers. And I'm also going to be talking about bee nutrition, going deeper into some of the things that I touched on in this video. So check that out. And as always, please join me for my live stream every Thursday night at 7 p.m. This is an opportunity for hundreds of beekeepers to come together. We have 600 to 800 beekeepers every Thursday night from around the country, around the world. And our biggest population so far, it's been almost 1,500 beekeepers on there at one time. So we have a very large live stream where people ask their questions and I give a teaching. We have giveaways. It's a lot of fun. Big shout out to the Pennsylvania Beekeepers Association. I had a ball out there. Frank was so great to host me, and the president of the Bee Club, Mark, and Robin Underwood did a great job. I met so many beekeepers there. Pennsylvania has a phenomenal beekeeping organization. It is really cool. They have Penn State that is really into supporting beekeepers as well. So it was just, it was a lot of fun. And I was there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was there about 5 days, and I spoke 6 times, about lost my voice. So I'm hoping my voice will recover before I start speaking in Texas day after tomorrow. So enjoyed it immensely. If you have a chance to pick a conference, there are a lot of conferences that are available. Don't think there's just 1 or 2 or a handful of conferences throughout the United States. There's a lot of conferences, okay? One of the conferences that I strongly recommend that you consider is the shirt that I'm wearing, the Eastern Apicultural Society of North America. It is a very solid organization that's been around since forever. But we have a Master Beekeeper program that is the oldest Master Beekeeper program in the U.S. And it is said by everyone that it is the most challenging. So it is one that people really like to pursue, just to know that they are truly having to learn everything they want to learn about honeybees to earn that certification. I earned mine in 2010 to Certified Master Beekeeper from EAS. You know, names like Dewey Caron, Dr. Clarence Collison, Dr. David Peck, Roger Morris he started the Master Beekeeper program, along with just other great people whose names are associated with EAS throughout the years. So it's really a great science organization, but it's not just science. It's not going to drown you if you're new beekeepers. We have a conference. We have a conference every year, and we have 3 tracks. So that we have the beginner's track. If you're brand new, we design courses and classes and workshops for you. If you're intermediate, it's not your first day keeping bees. We have a whole set of classes, workshops, conference built around intermediates or the advanced beekeeper. If you know a lot and you want to know a lot more, we have an advanced track. So we don't just pound you with science. You can pick your level of where you want to be and where you want to get to through EAS. So check EAS out. This year, this July, we're going to be in Louisville, Kentucky. I'll be there. I'll be speaking as well. And so I hope that you can put that on your calendar now as one of your summer events there in Louisville. I'll have a great time together. Now, if you want to watch a video of me feeding my bees, my winter bee kind board, still time to order one if you haven't gotten yours yet, check this video out right over here. I'll see you guys there.